Hola y un fuerte abrazo. Today we're going to talk about a colonoscopy. I got a colonoscopy in Mérida, Mexico, and I'm going to tell you the story, including the cost and the experience. So to truly get the whole picture of this story, we have to back up the bus, and I'm going to try to avoid all of the hilarious puns, but there will be a few, so let's try and keep it lighthearted. Good message, little lighthearted delivery. So when I turned 50 years old, I did what the doctor said to do. I went and I got my first colonoscopy. They found one polyp. It was a flat polyp. I guess those are a little harder to detect. And they removed it, and my insurance paid for it, and all was well. Because of finding the one, they said they wanted to see me back in 5 years. So fast forward 5 years, now 55 years old, and I go to make my next colonoscopy appointment. Well, my doctor that I painstakingly selected had a really great rapport. I really liked my doctor. The clinic where she worked stopped using my insurance company. So they're like, so sorry, we can't take you as a patient anymore. I mean, I guess I could have at self-pay, but I do have insurance. So I had to find a different doctor. That's a different subject. So I called the colonoscopy place and I just scheduled it directly, thinking my insurance, because it is, has preventative, that they would cover it. So I make my appointment, and then I started to think about it. I better check on that. And maybe about a month before, and by the way, it took like several months for me to be able to get an appointment, and that's important. So I call and I find out, hey, is a colonoscopy covered? Because typically they're every 10 years. And I thought, well, maybe for some reason it's not. And they said, yes, it was. However, if it becomes diagnostic, meaning if they're in there, yes, you can laugh. If they're in there and they find a polyp and they remove it, that becomes diagnostic. Then it's not covered. Well, that's the wackiest thing I've ever heard for insurance, especially preventative maintenance. Anyhow, so then it's not covered. And that's because I'm self-employed. Insurance is very expensive, so I have this kind of group plan. And if I did go through the U.S. and it was very expensive, they said it would be $3,000 to $5,000 if they ended up removing a polyp. Then I submit to their platform, and most of it gets covered, just not knowing how much. So, I just didn't know. And by this time, I was already 5.5 years away from my previous appointment. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to see what this would cost in Mexico, because I had a trip coming up in a couple months and I'd already missed the mark. So why not? I'll just wait and I'll do it when I go to Mexico. So once I had resolved that I was just going to pay out of pocket and have a colonoscopy in Mérida, Mexico, then the next question is, where on earth do I go? I hopped into one of several Facebook groups about living in Mexico that I belong to, and I asked. And of course, a whole bunch of people gave me different referrals as to where to go. And, you have to take those with a grain of salt a little bit. Enough people were giving really good referrals. One person had a bad experience, but that was one person. And if you read the replies and really understand their story, it's like, okay, I can shelf that one and learn from what happened to them. But I decided ultimately on this place called Centro de Endoscopía del Sureste. And that's in the neighborhood of Garcia Jimenez. So I had found the place I was going to go. That was step one. Step two was to call the place and make the appointment. And keep in mind, I'm making this appointment months in advance, which they were a little confused by because it's so easy to get appointments for medical visits in Mexico. They thought I didn't even need to call them until 2 weeks before I wanted to be seen. But I talked them into letting me book the appointment because I had very specific timelines, and they did. And I assured them that I would call and confirm that indeed I was coming 2 weeks before, and I just put it in my calendar and I called, and they appreciated that, and that worked fine. One of the things I learned in the Facebook group, this is why these chats are so valuable, is that if you're there at the clinic, you're having your colonoscopy, and if they find a polyp, they can't remove it right then and there. You have to make an appointment to come back. Who wants to do that twice in a row? I mean, no, thank you. So I asked the clinic about that when I called, and they said that they would remove it during the initial procedure if you provided them a blood test before the procedure. And forgive me, I cannot remember what they were testing for, but they were testing for something in particular. So I said, okay, I'll do that. Where do I get this blood test? And she just said, oh, you can get it at any clinic. I said, all right. And I didn't really even understand what the acronym was. So there was a little language barrier there for me. I called my friend Ivan, born and raised in Mérida, and asked him for his help. So he called around a few clinics and he found a place where I could get the blood test. Now, I was a little bit nervous about the timing of everything. And oh, by the way, I have a needle phobia. I'm the person who has to like lay down and look away. Fun fact. The reason I was a little nervous about the timing of everything is I needed to buy the prep. I needed to get the blood test all before, maybe 2 days before, because obviously the day before I'm staying put. So my plan for that trip, this was January 2025, was day one, arrive, and which is always in the evening. So day one, spend time with my friends who were actually staying in the Blue Cactus house, and we were overlapping by 1 day. So I wanted to spend some time with them, and that was fun. And then day two, do the prep, and day three, do the procedure. And that way I could spend the rest of my trip relaxed, had family coming into town, and have a nice time and just not worry about it. So still trying to do all this from the US. One, I had to buy the prep, and I had a friend of mine, and you just go to a pharmacy and get it, but I didn't know if they'd stock it, like I didn't want to chance that. So I had a local friend of mine buy it and pick it up for me, and she stashed it in a drawer in the Blue Cactus house. I'm glad nobody accidentally drank that. Ew. Anyway, it actually wasn't that bad. We'll get to that part. And then the other part was I was worried about getting this blood test. Well, the day after I arrived, I walked over to the clinic because I booked an Airbnb that was just a couple blocks away. Also a good move. And I walked over to the clinic just to check in, and I don't know, I guess just to check in on things. And they said they could do the blood test there. I'm like, okay. And they took me in right away and they did the blood test. So now I didn't have to run around town and find a clinic to independently do this blood test. So that was another relief off of my shoulders. So the Airbnb that I got, I have a video about that. It's in, I'll put a link to it below because it was a really cute Airbnb. If my house is booked, if you want to come and stay with me, please do, or at my house. But if my house is booked, I really did like this other sweet little Airbnb. And I just got, I'm so rambly right now. I just got my new business cards. Check them out. Let's see if you can see that. Yay! AmysCasa. Okay, that was that. But when I was looking for this Airbnb by the clinic, I was determined to find one that had a bedroom with a bathroom attached to the bedroom for the obvious reasons. That's all I'm going to say on that. Okay, so then it was time for prep day. This is what I took. Look, I even brought this box home to show you guys. This is what I took. It's called Pico Prep, and it's 2 packets. So, twice during the day, and you dissolve it in water. No, that's not what it is. That's emergency. But it actually wasn't that bad. Now the other prep, because they tell you there's 2 kinds, the other prep was 4 packets. Big decision, 2 packets or 4 packets. Hello, go with the 2. So if you're getting a colonoscopy in Mexico and they tell you, that they want you to take this one, ask them if you can take Pico Prep, because it actually wasn't that bad. and I'll just spare you the details of that day. All right, the day of the colonoscopy. I arrived early and they checked me in, and I sat there nervously because it's a weird thing to do. It was very nerve-wracking, but everyone was very kind, and I went in to get the anesthesia. This was the absolute worst part of the whole process for me, and it probably wasn't even that bad at the time, but they put the needle in your hand. I mean, that's what I have to work with, folks. And remember, I hate needles. So I looked away, and this poor anesthesiologist, I must have asked him a million questions. Like, oh, do you have kids? Oh, how many kids do you have? Oh, do you have siblings? Tell me about your family. Tell me this, tell me that, because I was trying to distract myself. But this was so freaking painful. Like, I don't know if it's like the needle went in and then as he was taping it down, it kept moving around. But I mean, like back arching, like type painful. But don't let that deter you from getting your colonoscopy. And then voila, I'm awake and everything's good. The doctor was so nice. Clean, clean slate. I can't, there's so many puns. I can't help myself. And so everything was good. The doctor was very kind, very reassuring, very experienced. I felt comforted to just know that it was an older person who had been at that clinic for a very long time. For some reason, that to me was, a level of comfort. And he, at the end, we got to chatting, and he said that many of the clients that come in from the U.S. have issues, have problems. And I said, oh, why is that? And he said, processed foods. He said, you guys basically eat a lot of processed foods or food in packages. And, I agreed with that. And I, tried to make it sound like, oh, I'm doing better. I'm making all my meals at home. And, just the Mexican culture, people pick up their food at the market. They buy from the butcher. They prepare food at home. So, Mexicans as a whole don't eat a lot of packaged foods. Now, the snacks and the goodies, could lay off of those. But then I'm like, oh, but wait a minute. This is good. I brought this for after my colonoscopy to snack on. And he's like, nope, it's food in a package. And now that I look at it, it does have palm oil. But little side note, I like these when I travel because I can throw one in my purse. And if I'm somewhere and I feel like my blood sugar's low or I'm just ravenously hungry, I can grab one of these. Plus, it's super satisfying to do that. Well, oh, okay, here's the other thing. Price. Oh my gosh, you guys, sorry. It was approximately $450 US for all of that. I got this nice little packet when I left. I am sparing you the page that has the photos. There are photos. Here's the kicker, and then we're gonna wrap. All right, it came with this. Look at and this is also where it's at if you want the name. Okay, it came with this. Guess what's in here? A movie of my colonoscopy. Now, there's not enough movie popcorn in the world to make me want to watch that. Maybe someday I will, but not this time, not this go around. So there you have it. I had a very, very good experience having the procedure done in Mérida, Mexico. And don't be afraid of it. If you haven't done it and you're over 50 or even earlier nowadays, get it done. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Thank you. Un fuerte abrazo, besitos y cuídate mucho. And get a colonoscopy.